So they said, well, the first single is going to radio now. If you don't have an album cover tonight, you're out of luck. So this album cover was shot at 3 in the morning. It is a hefty garbage bag, squirted with water, and with my fingers, I wrote "Slippery When Wet." At 3:15 in the morning, I turned it in and I said, there's your album cover. Went on to be one of the biggest selling records of all time. Hi, I'm Jon Bon Jovi, and this is my life in albums. This is our first record, simply called Bon Jovi. It came out in January of 1984. I had written Runaway, and I had been frustrated by record companies and managers, and nobody was responding to the song. And I thought, who is the loneliest but most passionate man in the music business? A DJ. So I went to a brand new radio station right here in New York City, and I took him Runaway. And I played it for the guy, and he said, that's a hit song. And I said, I know. They started playing it on the radio in New York. The band was not yet together, but I had the song and put the band together around it. These guys, these wonderful men, I thought were going to be with me for 3 weeks. 40 years later, we're still talking about it. This street is what is known as Columbus Circle here in New York City. And there we are standing in the front of a burger joint that I used to have to run to get burgers and fries for the people recording in the studio I was the go-fer in. I don't know this girl. I didn't know her then. I never saw her again after. And somehow a stranger ends up on the album cover while the poor band are on the back of the cover. Back then we didn't have a lot of say in what the artwork was going to be. 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit. We were so ridiculously green when we made these first couple records that a guy from the record company came in and he said, 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature that rock melts. Genius. Not my favorite record. You have your whole life to write your first record. Second record, typically you have 6 or 7 weeks. So there was a couple of top 40 singles that I wrote, but nonetheless, not my favorite record. And certainly not my favorite album cover, and it's definitely not my favorite title. This is the cover of Slippery When Wet. It should have been called The Rocket Ship to Stardom. We knew what we had with Bad Name. We knew that we had a big anthem that would work on radio. What we didn't know was that the second single was called Living on a Prayer. And it was so different than anything that anybody had ever done. And obviously, you know, went on to be the song that it is. After that, Wanted Dead or Alive. After that, Never Say Goodbye. Slippery When Wet changed all our lives. Bon Jovi, New Jersey. If there was anything that we had on our minds was, don't let anyone think that Slippery When Wet was a fluke. At this point, we were fed up with record company folks coming to us and telling us what they wanted, how they wanted it, where they wanted it. We simply stated, here's the name of the band, this is where we're from. Now it's up to us to provide the music. 5 top 10 singles later, we were back on the road with a finished record out 1 year after the success of Slippery, which was, we were working hard. But Bad Medicine, #1. I'll Be There For You, #1. Lay Your Hands on Me, Living in Sin, and Born to Be My Baby. 5 top 10 singles on this record alone. We were in Los Angeles, California. The band was on the road on the New Jersey tour. And if you opened up the curtains of my hotel room, there was a big billboard of the 5 of us staring into our window. My girlfriend, who was my fiance at the time, we had a night off. And I said, I need a higher high. I got an idea. Let's go to Vegas now. And she said, now? I said, now. And we went and didn't tell anybody. The taxi cab driver was our witness. And in about a month from now, it'll be my 35th anniversary. So we got it right. You know, got it right the first time. So after 7 years of nonstop touring and record making, we needed a break mentally and physically. And the opportunity came to me to write a song for a film. I had met Emilio Estevez, who was the star of Young Guns. They were making a sequel with Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Christian Slater, Alan Rudd. And out of that came Young Guns. So this was my first solo effort. I wrote all the songs on this record. The band was Elton John, Jeff Beck, Kenny Aronoff, Danny Korchmar, Waddy Wachtel, some of the greatest musicians ever. all joined me for this incredible, fun, rollicking time. #1 record, won the Golden Globe, nominated for an Oscar, and it got me into acting. Young Guns changed the trajectory of my life. Keep the faith. So now it's the 90s. Grunge music comes up, and a lot of my peer group are put out of business. We see a lot of things that we can write about. The Berlin Wall coming down, the riots in LA, the Rodney King beatings, my turning 30, getting a haircut, getting married. Bed of Roses was a monster hit on that record, as was Keep the Faith. And we went and toured it extensively around the world, where it was even bigger outside of America than in America. So not only did we survive, but we thrived throughout the 90s. Crossroads, 1994, also known as the first greatest hits collection. But the magic of this is they asked me for a couple of new songs. A famous A&R guy by the name of John Kalodner heard a demo of a song that I had written called Always. And he said, you know, that's a big monster hit. And I said, really? And he suggested that we rework it and record it. And we did. One of the biggest songs we've ever had. Unfortunately, as a result, a great song called Someday I'll Be Saturday Night really never got its due. Stephanie, my eldest, was also the first baby in the band. So it was all new for all of us. Diaper bags and car seats. After Steph came Gabby and Colton, and then Jesse, and then, you know, the next generation with Ava Sambora and Hector Torres. And so then we were like the Partridge Family. We had lots of kids on the road. 1995 brought us These Days. Maybe not the same kind of hit singles, but a very successful album in its own right. Some would say that it was a darker record, but we were in a great place writing. It was a deeper record. Playing these songs, you know, they still stand up for me today. But with the success of Always and Saturday Night, the singles on here really didn't get the chance. But great album. 1997, Destination Anywhere is my second solo record. By this time, I was writing soundtracks, but also appearing on the screen. I had studied a number of years by this point and was enjoying making movies between band records because we'd had so much fun in 94, 95, the big stadium tour through 96. 97 gave me a chance to artistically just spread my wings, but it was just a great experiment. You know, I did a short film instead of videos. Demi Moore, Whoopi Goldberg, Kevin Bacon, Annabella Ciora, a whole bunch of actors appeared in the short film. So it was a great, you know, way to express yourself artistically. The art is the journey. You set out and write a collection of songs, and then what happens is out of your control. But I enjoyed the journey. In 2000, we released Crush. Couldn't have been a more appropriate title. We had written a song called It's My Life. It's my life, and it's now or never. And a new generation of people found the band. I think we surprised a lot of people why we lived through the 80s, we lived through grunge, and now we live through, you know, the new millennium. And It's My Life was just that song that was the thing that reintroduced us to the world. There's a lyric in the song like, Frankie said I did it my way. I had a long discussion with Richie Sambora at the time. He said, what is this? Frankie said I did it my way. I said, it's Frank Sinatra. I make movies, I make records. I get involved socially. He says, well, nobody cares. I said, I do. He says, well, you got to sing it every night. The magic is when it comes from such a pure place. That's the beauty of creating a song, is that people make those stories their own. And It's My Life was just that. Bounce. This was written the fall of 2001, which was 9/11. And on that fateful day, Richie and I were at my home in New Jersey. We were writing songs for what was to become this record, but obviously the world changed on that day. Songs like Undivided, or Every Day, or several others on here really became much more about the moment in time that we were all living in, and this shock and dismay of what had happened to the world on that day in September 2001. And then the resilience, because if you remember, 9/12 was a day that the world came together. And there was that kind of, okay, we'll bounce back. And so it took on a different meaning. 2005, Have a Nice Day. This yet again opened some different doors, won us a Grammy, and we were the first rock band ever to have a #1 country single. Had some big rock songs on here too, like Have a Nice Day. I had been going to Nashville for a decade plus at this point. So when Richie and I wrote Who Says, there was an unknown girl by the name of Jennifer Nettles, and we thought if we added her to the country version, we had a shot at country radio. And it skyrocketed to #1. This one's called Lost Highway. So after the success of Have a Nice Day, it was evident and obvious that country radio was in love with Bon Jovi. So we made a Nashville-flavored Bon Jovi record that I really, to this day, truly do love. You Want to Make a Memory, Lost Highway, Till We Ain't Strangers Anymore was a great single. Till we ain't strangers anymore. This whole album really stands up to me. This one is called The Circle. It doesn't take a genius to figure out we went full circle, back to rock and roll. I hate to be ever put into a box. There's a difference between evolution and pandering. We didn't pick up on hip hop when hip hop was popular, boy bands when boy bands were popular. We just evolved as men and as songwriters. You know, I couldn't rewrite something from 1986 in 2010. It wouldn't ring true. But for us, this record did ring true, and Born to Follow was a hit. It was nominated for a Grammy. We weren't born to follow. We did a documentary called When We Were Beautiful. And again, we did 100+ shows on this tour. It was a blast. In 2013, we did What About Now? This is the last record that Richie participated in. We were all shocked. We could not have been in a better place. That album was about to enter the charts at #1 that week. We had just done 20 shows, we're sold out every night. Everybody was converging on Calgary, and he just didn't show up. It was the end of a chapter for the band. Difficult, but you know, life goes on. I've been waiting at the door for 10 years. He doesn't want to come back to the band. There was nothing but love. There was never a fight. He wanted to raise his daughter. He had to deal with his other issues. We had 120 people on the road, 80 other shows to do, so the train kept going. I'm sorry, you know, I'm really sorry. But God bless Phil X for being able to fill those shoes. He's not sorry he quit, he's just sorry the way he did it. This house is not for sale, metaphorically speaking, is your heart and your soul and the work that you put in for 30+ years at that point. Quite a statement record, #1 album. In fact, twice. Was the album that was out when we were inducted in the Hall of Fame. Not only were we still on top, but the songs were deeper and they mean something. This is the beginning of the Phil X era and bringing him in to fill those shoes that Richie decided not to work anymore. 2020. While we were recording songs for this album and I'd come up with the album title 2020, it was really tongue-in-cheek. Bon Jovi, election year, cute t-shirt, why not? But then in March of 2020, the world shuts down. And obviously everything stops, including the record. And what was happening in front of me gave me opportunity to write more. So Do What You Can, American Reckoning. American Reckoning. Songs like that came out of that. Unfortunately, we didn't have an opportunity to tour, did very little promotion, and it's tough because the record we love. Obviously a very topical record about a time that we all, no matter who you are, where you are on this planet, live through. So 2020 was a narrative and a deep, thoughtful record, but I was really almost in the third person, just narrating what was going on around us. The forthcoming record, it's called Forever. And this is a collection of songs that were truly fueled by joy. So many of you have been on this ride with us for these 40 years, some from the very beginning. Some have gotten on the tracks, at varying stations along the way. As I sit here reminiscing about 18 albums in 40 years, it gives me great feeling of pride, joy, appreciation for everybody who has been on that ride with us. And I look forward to being able to say more and sing more as time goes on.